made up of 10 school corporations. I think it was 10 school corporations, and I was one of the members.
So this would have been before they did what they call mainstreaming. What do they call it?
Right,
Is that what they call it?
right.
Where now they deal with the different disabilities at different schools.
Within
And
the
they
school.
bus within, well, I know, within this whole co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
So there's still probably a organization that manages
Yes, there
this.
is.
right.
Huh. Mom, you were on the board of Dollars for Scholars, right?
We started that.
She started.
In the 80s, we started that Dollars for Scholars at Hanover. It's still going.
And that was basically the idea is to give scholarship money to kids at Hanover.
Right. Seniors graduating, going on to college. And we had fundraisers, and it's been very successful.
Yeah. You know, when I was in school, I remember, and now thinking back on it, Hanover was more of a, my sense in hearing about Hanover now is that it's more of an affluent school than it was when I was in school. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Probably.
And the reason I say that is because when I was in school, I think probably only about 10% of the kids were going to go on to college. I mean, ultimately people
Right.
do, but isn't, I mean, it's
Now
way
it's
higher
like
now.
90-some%, I think, that go on to college the last several years.
But why is that, do you think?
I think it's a trend of the country.
Because of in those days, way back when they went to the steel mill and worked.
I'm talking about
Right
when
out
I
of high school.
graduated.
Even when you, well.
80, 70s and 80s. I guess.
At that
maybe.
time, I don't know if they still went to the steel mill or not.
Oh, yeah, well,
Or they went, just, a lot of them just went out and went to work.
yeah.
Or to the service.
Or to the service, right?
Instead of going to college. But
Right.
I think the trend was then more to encourage them to go to college in the
Yeah,
last several years. The guidance counselors are taking a more active role,
Right.
I think, to get help.
Yeah, we didn't
to
have
help you get
the greatest
started.
guidance counselors when I was in
No,
high school.
I know.
What was your first job, Dad? Didn't you work in a leather store or something?
yeah, a leather shop in Crown Point,
That was when you were a kid, right?
yeah.
And you go like after school or
I
something?
go after school, and I think, if I remember right, I worked for like 2 hours and a half, like from 3:30 until 6, and then go home.
And you still, I mean, you can still do it. You
Oh,
still
yeah.
do it. Yeah. Matter of fact, he engraved Mama's briefcase.
That's
right.
true.
And so how many years did you work in the leather place?
Well, while I was in high school.
Okay. And who did you work for there?
Guy's name was Ray Austin. He was from Griffith.
Oh, so not related to the Austins that I know?
No,
Okay. And then after high school, you went to Purdue.
mm-hmm.
Did you work at Purdue?
Did I work there?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I waited tables in the
Yeah, I didn't know that.
in the what the hell, Purdue Memorial Union.
You did?
Mhm.
I'll be dinged. And so like they had a restaurant in there or something?
Well, this was for banquets,
Oh, okay. So like wedding receptions, that kind of thing?
right?
And then after Purdue, you went to the Army,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about some other time. And then after the Army, what job did you have?
Chasing her.
Didn't you sell insurance or something at some point?
Yeah.
I seem to
There was
remember
a time.
for all
I did a lot of different
Did.
things.
before you arrived at carpentry.
Yes.
So how long was it after the Army to the time you went to work for? His name was Bartruff, right?
Yeah.
Was it Robert?
Robert L. Barker.
When was
It was
when
probably
did you start working?
5 or 6 years, something like that.
Between the Army and work for Bartruff?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time you had just different
Phone company.
different
He
jobs.
worked for
Oh, I
the
worked for the phone company too. I forgot
for a
that.
while, several, maybe
2 or 3
some
years.
Doing what?
Engineer.
At the phone company.
Mhm.
That's when you didn't like the white collar. I remember you telling me about the corporate culture or
Oh
something.
yeah. I didn't like the corporate culture.
So so Bartruff, if I remember right, he had he had a small construction company
Yes.
of some kind. And was he building houses or bigger?
Building houses.
And how long did you work for him?
I don't know. How long did I work for Robert Dunbar?
But that's when you learn really a lot, right? How to do that.
Well,
stuff.
that's where
I mean, he literally taught you, or I mean, he was the guy that said, "This is how you do this." And,
Yeah, right.
Okay. Is he still alive?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
So after you worked for Bartriff, then is that when you started building on your own,
Yes.
or did you go somewhere else first?
No, that's when I started doing it myself.
And how long do you remember how long you worked for Bartriff?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Maybe 4 or 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then as far as the houses you built, I mean, I remember the way this worked, and tell me if I'm right about how this worked, but the way any carpenter that was going to go out and build houses like this would do is you'd go and you'd take a bank loan to fund the building and materials, right? And then you'd go and sell the house, pay back the bank, and you keep the difference. That's was basically
Essentially.
the business model. And I remember you building 3 houses on Parish Avenue in Cedar Lake, and those are ones that Tom and I worked on. I remember one down by the farm.
Bill D. Wells.
Bill D. Wells' house. But there are more than that.
There
right?
was one in Lowell and probably
Yeah.
one in Cedar Lake there.
One down by the Buckley farm.
Yeah.
These are ones you did yourself. I mean,
Mhm.
how many houses do you think? Not just counting the ones you did yourself, but with Bartriff too. How many houses do you think you built?
Maybe 20 altogether.
Okay, and all in Cedar Lake,
In that area, yeah.
Lowell, Crown Point.
And we got old
Oh, out by Dyer.
Maryland and Bill and Bowden's
Yeah,
house.
by Dyer, out,
Yeah, right.
out west.
Well, that right now you guys are lucky to be retired because a lot of people
Yes.
with this. I mean, with this economy is a terrible economy. But I remember when I was going to college in 80, 81, the economy was really bad then too. I don't know if it was as bad as it is now, but it was really bad for certainly construction.
Well, that's when I went to work up in the North End.
Right, and what I remember about that was, I think you told me that Denny Wilkening hooked you up with some company.
Yeah,
Right.
Brant.
Brant, that's right.
First he had to get a carpenter's union card, right, to get the
Which
job.
you didn't want to do before. I remember
Right.
prior to 1980 or so that you were not interested in doing that. And then you did it. You seemed like you were all right with it.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, one time you and I talked about it, and you said if you'd have started earlier, you might have gotten more involved with the union, right?
Yeah.
So you were starting the carpenters union in about 81,
Yes.
and still are probably, right?
Right.
I mean, you still send dues in and stuff. There was one time we were talking about this, and you told me that even though you got into the union later, you got in kind of at the right time as far as.
Well, that's because they had not had any significant kind of a pension
Before that.
before that. And then they started this pension plan that they now have.
Mm-hmm.
And they started out with a nickel an hour was going into your pension plan. And when I left there, it was up to $5 an hour.
Wow. So this is the carpenters union card.
Mm-hmm. And now, since I'm a retiree, they pay my
So
they
this-
pay my dues.
Local 1005.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to think about this here. The union, the carpenters union, and a lot of these trades unions, they manage their own pension plans and
Yes, they
healthcare
do.
benefits. So that you're not really at risk like the auto workers, the GM workers, you know, the people
No,
whose
because the companies don't have their hands in it.
companies don't have anything to do with it, right?
No.
Other than making the initial contribution
Right.
on the pay. So after you went to work for Brant, you went to work for Brand as a carpenter, but eventually at Brand you were promoted to be a supervisor.
Yes,
It was at Brand, right?
right.
And then you
That
had
took me about 3 months.
to be a supervisor. Well, it's funny because our friend Deanna, I always say to her, right now you're getting a master's degree in business, by running your own thing. So you running your own business, for all that time. I'm sure you were able to, bring creative solutions to things that a lot of people who just work for other people couldn't do.
Well, I also had a lot of books.
Right, and you had some schooling on it
I
as well.
I read the books and I understood them.
Right.
So
Right, you mean all the carpentry books?
the carpentry books, the plumbing books, the
Electrician
you know,
books.
I had a state plumbing license. You knew that?
Right,
Okay.
and electricians too?
No, I didn't have electrical.
But I remember you doing it.
Yes.
I mean, you knew how to do it.
I knew how to do it, but electricians didn't have to have a license.
Oh, okay. You didn't have to have a license for carpentry.
No.
So,
Well, now you have to have a general contractor's license,
okay,
which I don't need, but I could go and take the test and pass it.
right. So now when you're working, and you had different, you worked for Brandt, you worked for some other companies too. What was the name of the company you retired from? Hassey?
Hassey.
So after Brandt, you went to Hassey, or was there somebody in between?
I don't remember.
Okay, so,
You're like when you work in the unions, when you work union jobs, you're like an itinerant berry picker. You
Right.
might go here and work for this
but
company
that's not
for
as a
3 weeks.
supervisor though, is it?
Huh?
That's not as a supervisor.
No, but
But when you're doing,
it all goes through the union hall.
right. But when you're a supervisor, you stay with the
You
same
go out and
company.
find your own, if they have work. You know,
Okay.
if they don't have work, you go to work for somebody else.
Oh, okay.
There's no loyalties involved.
Okay. And the work you do, even though you're a supervisor at Brandt, you might go back and do carpentry through the hiring hall.
Right.
If there isn't work at Brandt.
Yes.
Okay. And if I remember right, when you're at Brandt, you built a school down in Lowell, right?
No, that was with
That wasn't
Gary,
Oh, yeah.
Gary of Construction.
Yep. But that school that was an elementary school on Joe Martin Road,
Yes,
and you were the supervisor of that
right.
project. And then I remember you built a grain elevator somewhere, didn't you?
That was out on, out past I-65, on the east side of I-65, and that was for your Uncle Bob.
No. And what was on the east side of I-65?
Mm-hmm.
Right on Route 2?
Yeah.
Off to the right, as you're going,
No, off to the left.
as you're going
And
towards Lowell?
as you're going towards Cleveland,
Yeah. Oh,
It was
it's that
on-
far down.
it was on the north side of the road, about 2 miles east of I-65.
Okay. And then you built an Olive Garden,
Right.
and that was where?
In Bloomingdale, Illinois,
And I
Was
remember.
that-
up where Medina Country Club is.
Okay.
Was that for Brant?
No, that was for that outfit over in
I can't remember who that was for.
Velcro. What the hell was the name? I can't remember the name of it.
I remember you tell me that there's some guy that came at the end to paint the murals in there, and that was his job. He just traveled around all over the country painting the murals in the Olive
Okay,
Garden.
that's right.
And now we just went to one this week and the murals are gone.
They
Now
are?
They painted
They've
over.
redecorated and they painted them and they have pictures up.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Huh.
We just realized that.
That
this
guy's
week.
probably pretty pumped out to paint
Yeah.
over all his
I
paintings.
know, and they were beautiful murals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was very
He did a
surprised.
great job. What he did was he would take magazines that had pictures in them, and he would take these pictures out, and he would take a section of this picture, a second of this picture, and a section of this picture, and he'd make a collage so that it looked like some sort of an Italian village somewhere,
Right.
you know, or a coastal fishing village. And it was all his imagination. Whatever he wanted, he could paint.
Wow. Yeah, and I think of our friends here that we know that are artists that are just traveling around from art fair to art fair trying to sell their stuff to make a living. It's amazing. And then it seemed to me like there was something up in the plant where Shirley Manning worked.
Oh, it's Standard Oil Company?
Yeah, what did you make there?
No, we just did a remodeling on an office and a lab they had up there.
It seemed to me there was something up in Gary or Hammond.
No.
Well, there was a big deal
That
up
last thing.
at Amazo,
What was that?
built a corn syrup plant up there. That was my last job with Hassie.
Okay, and what?
It was a
You
2-year
brought
job.
the physical, I mean, it was like a production facility or something?
Oh yeah, it was a hell of a big deal.
What was it? It was
It was a plant, and they bring semis in, like, you know, from Uncle Bob's place with corn in it, and put it in there, and they'd have corn syrup come out the other end.
oh, darn.
They
You
made
mean
it
like corn syrup they put in food?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. What else did you make when you were as a supervisor?
Well,
I remember you had to go up and stay overnight up in
it was
Illinois.
that was for Brant. That was a 5-story, 135 unit apartment building, and I inherited it because the guy who was running it went to work for somebody else, and Brant needed somebody up there. So
You
I
worked for him
finished.
for pretty long, right?
Yeah, I worked for them quite a while.
That's what I thought. And I've got that great old picture. I'm gonna go get this picture that I have downstairs. I think it was, I'm not sure where you were working at the time. Let me see how we're doing here.
Can you turn it off for a while?
Yeah, just for a second here.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to do all this stuff yet.